Right now, we're the largest. I think we're probably about three times larger than anybody else. All that cherry has been basically a waste product and a pollutant. What byproducts and what other products can we take and create from that excess cherry? So we've been doing the research over the last couple of years, and it looks like the best use case. And eventually, you won't grow coffee in Colombia. People are going to leave the industry. There's not enough money there if you only have 3 acres.
Adam, thank you for coming on today. How are you?
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. I loved your story and your journey from, starting off with buying real estate and what you're doing with a coffee now and where you're going with the company. And so could you kind of give us like a 30-second of your background and just how you guys launched your company, please?
Sure. So talking to you today from Colombia, South America. Been down here 6 years, corporate attorney by background, practiced in the US, with corporate finance, SEC regulation, corporate governance, advising boards of directors, CEOs, CFOs of pubcos, and taking companies public. And kind of the story of leading down to Colombia just involves a career transition, thinking about something I wanted to do, kind of going on the entrepreneurial journey that we've talked about. And today I'm down in Colombia because we're focused on bringing high net worth investor capital down the country, building businesses. And our kind of pride and joy is the Green Coffee Company, which is now the largest producer of coffee in the entire country of Colombia. I think for a lot of people, Colombia and coffee are synonymous. But, it was a real estate play at the beginning that we just saw a lot of opportunity to build upon. So happy to get into that story.
Yeah. How is the unemployment rate in Colombia right now?
I'd say it's bouncing back a little bit since the pandemic. That
Okay.
shit probably hovers around 10%.
Okay. Yeah. So your
Yeah.
jobs are critical down there. I'd like
Yes.
to, you guys own what, 10,000 acres now?
Yeah, we're about 10,000 acres, a little over 13 million coffee trees. I'm crazy to say.
And over what time frame to acquire all that?
Started the business back in 2017. Not we launched our initial capital raise back then, and really with the thesis of providing an alternative investment product for U.S. high net worth investors that were already comfortable with Colombia and already had positions in commercial real estate down here. So we got kind of from on the client demand side and asked to build an investment product that is similar to real estate in the sense that it's asset heavy, there's cash flow, downside protection, inflation protection, everything that people love about real estate, but that provided some diversification. And obviously, the next kind of closest thing that we saw and biggest opportunity was in agriculture. And we selected the national product of Colombia, which is coffee, and the product from Colombia that I think a lot of people around the world think about when they think about what's coming out of here.
Yeah.
Besides other things, but we don't let's stay with it. Yeah.
Well, there's that too. The side gig.
Well, there's that too, but that's
Uh,
that too.
yeah, you want to steer clear from that. The
Yes,
let's start from the very beginning. So you guys were originally
sure.
a land play. You started out how many? Talk about the kind of property you're looking for and how did you go about acquiring it?
Yeah, our thesis was that we could consolidate land, consolidate infrastructure, sell coffee further down the value chain. So go from commodities to in-store products, reach the end consumer. So out the gate, we raised about $6 million. We bought about 600 acres of land, and we started to design and think about the infrastructure improvements that we could put together to improve production, improve efficiencies, everything that kind of comes with your standard consolidation play. What we saw in the market at the time was a lot of fragmentation, which has become even more apparent to us over the last few years. So, what do I mean by that? Basically, 95% of all the coffee farms in Colombia are owned by small landholding families that own 3 acres or less. So people think coffee, they think Colombia, they think probably somebody's been here forever, somebody's already consolidated. It's Starbucks is here, Nestle's here, they've already done what we're talking about. It's not the case at all. So the opportunity that we saw from a real estate perspective was you get a lot of the generational pass down of coffee farming operations in Colombia. So great granddad put together land, maybe 100 acres, 200 acres back in the day. He farmed it, passed it down, gets to a third, fourth generation. And what you often see is that third, fourth generation, they don't want to be coffee farmers. Often, a lot of the time, the family's wealth is tied up in the land, tied up in the farms. So there's a good chance to buy farms at good prices when you get that generational handover and people just want liquidity. There's not, frankly, a ton of buyers in the market or deals.
Okay. Now, do a lot of those people, when you acquire those properties, do they tend to stick around and work for you, or do they take the money and go find something else they want to do?
Usually they're selling because they want to take the money and go do something else. If they wanted to keep running it, if they wanted to be in coffee, they'd stay in coffee and kind of carry on the family legacy. But most people want liquidity. We'll pick up often a lot of the workers that were with or that were farming the family estate on behalf of the family before we bought it, but the sellers are gone.
Yeah.
Usually before we close.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking, like, what is like 3 acres typically run down on a price wise?
We're buying acres. If you're talking about, okay, what's a productive piece of land cost, probably talking about like $8,000 a hectare. So probably like 4,000 an acre, 4,000
Okay.
US dollars an acre.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, on average.
Yeah. Wow, and you're looking for producing land. You don't want to you don't want to go in, plant trees, and then 3, 4, 5 years down the road, start producing then. You're going in, you're buying where there's already beans growing, and so you're focused on that, correct? Or are you doing both?
Yeah, I mean, primarily we're looking for already productive assets.
Yeah.
So, and then it comes with the territory, right? We can find deals because we're buying from farmers who are already in coffee. The regions that we want coffee towns. Why? The labor is familiar with the product. Logistically, the logistics are in place for coffee. People just know about the crop in those communities. So we want people who are familiar. Buying them from people who are already in coffee, it's I guess if you were going to make the analogy to real estate, it would probably be a kind of distressed real estate situation where you go in. A lot of times you have to take out trees, do some replantings, those kind of things, kind of refurbish what's already there. But that gives us production right away. We're really looking for call it 20 to 25% return on investment in the first year from the crops coming off the tree if we're selling it just as a commodity. Where we've bought vacant land before, kind of green fields to plant, has been where one, we could get a great deal, and two, where they were strategic in the sense that often like they'll be the middle parcel between two parcels that we already own. So, it's like buying we talked about this before. It's like buying the house, in between the two that you already own, just to kind of make it a contiguous unit. But we're looking for productive assets primarily.
Now, assembling 10,000 acres, I'm guessing you aren't able to do it in one location. So you have to have, how far apart or how big of a swath do you guys take for this 10,000 acres?
It's just a tremendous amount of land. We're just talking about like walls of mountains around you. But we try to position the acquisitions through like what we refer to as different operating nexuses, really relating to how far can you transport the coffee to centralized processing facilities before things start to rot, go bad. The coffee, basically you have to process it within about 24 hours, or the cherry that it grows in starts to rot on the outside. So we try to keep kind of everything within those centralized nexuses. But right now we have 4 different regions around the country that we're that we're buying or that we're owning land and putting facilities.
Yeah, I would think because I'm sure you get kickback of, oh, you're down there, you're mechanizing everything, you're taking jobs. That's kind of hard to do in coffee, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's you can do a lot with technology in the actual processing stage. So once the coffee's off the tree and in the factory, but if you were to come down and visit, and maybe some of your audience has been to Colombia, you know, it's basically we're in the Andean mountains. Coffee grows on the side of mountains. It grows in clusters, so it's very hard for example, some of the technology that you would see in the US to harvest corn or wheat, what have you. You know, we're not talking about the Great Plains and John
Right.
Deere tractors rolling around. This is a lot of
You're on the side
people
of a
going
hill,
at,
or
you're
the
on the
side of a
side of a
mountain.
mountain. You're on the
Yeah.
side of a mountain and the technology is limited. And also it's not a historically, for folks who have just sold commodity coffee out of Colombia, there's not enough money there to make the technological investment
Right.
necessary to be able to farm that kind of land. So it's still very much done by hand. People going into the mountains, that basket on the chest, picking the right berries, carrying it to a drop off point. We'd love to put more technology in place, and it's coming, but it'll take some time for sure.
Sure, absolutely. Now you're one of the largest growers in Colombia right now, right?
Right now, we're the largest. Yeah, I think we're probably about 3 times larger than anybody else.
What made you guys choose coffee? Is this just something that you saw the margins there, or you just couldn't get a good cup of coffee at Starbucks? You think, oh, we got to change this. What happened?
It was really that client demand drive that I mentioned at the outset of our chat. You know, our clients were real estate investors, comfortable with real estate, wanted some diversity into agriculture, and wanted something that was pretty easy to understand. You know, everybody can put coffee and Colombia together, the infrastructure and kind of the history and the country knows coffee, so the logistics are in place. And also, I think it's just a product that people can get excited about. You know, people are drinking coffee every day. A lot of people, I'd say, it almost has a resonance that we've seen, like people just have like with the craft beer industry, for example. It's something that people have fun with and also just enjoy the product on a daily basis. I don't think we would have generated the same excitement with our investors, for example, if we said we were the largest producer of mangoes in Colombia. There's just not that mental positioning that people have. So coffee just made a ton of sense, and you know that it was really client driven, and we've just ran with it since then.
Okay. Now you guys are growing, right? You're just growing coffee right now. That's it, right?
In terms of agricultural products,
Yeah.
yeah, we're focused on coffee. You know, we have some bananas that grow on the farms that are really used for shading purposes, but it's a small portion of the business. So green coffee company, you know, we stick to what we know.
Yep, I don't blame you. Yeah, there's a show on years
Yeah.
ago, and I'll be damned if I remember the name of it, but this guy would go around to all parts of the world, and quite dangerous, at least the way they made it seem on TV. And he'd go in and find these
Yeah.
small farmers doing these small batch, and he would buy that coffee and ship it back to the United States. And but it's pretty dangerous. And but he was
Uh-huh.
buying it directly from the farmers and then sending it back. So now, are you guys where you're just growing right now and processing? Are you guys going to get into distribution, or what's the end game with what you guys are doing?
Yeah, our business model really has 3 pieces. So it's be excellent at farming using the best technology, infrastructure, talent that we can find in the country to maximize the production of the farms that we have, and also build enough of a system and infrastructure where we become the prime buyer for the coffee of those farmers that you mentioned, except in the raw material format, not in the processed format. The second one is take what's now a commodity and sell it more as a roasted coffee. So
Mm.
roasted coffee would be the cooked coffee that you guys are used to buying and that we're all used to buying in the grocery store, whether it's in the whole bean form or the ground form or K-cup, whatever it might be. We want to move a lot of our coffee through the roasted channel. It's just a lot higher when you're talking about commodity sales. And we'll do that on a B2B basis primarily, but also we have some exciting brand partnerships coming up here in the near term that we expect to move a lot of volume through. So just to give you a scale perspective, we're trying to do about 30 million pounds of roasted coffee a year, heading into a target of a 2026 IPO for our investors. The third part of our business model, which is really, I think, innovative, especially for folks who would know the industry, is when you grow coffee, as I mentioned, you take it off the tree and it comes in a cherry form, and it looks exactly like a cherry like you'd be used to eating in the fruit form, right? Coffee is the seed that's inside, the bean that's inside. For the history of coffee all over the world, whether it's Colombia, Brazil, Ethiopia, all these countries that have grown coffee for hundreds and even thousands of years, all that cherry has been basically a waste product and a pollutant. People have just thrown it in the river if they've done nothing with it of value. What we decided to do is think about it as you would if you're in the oil and gas space or in other forms of agriculture like corn and what have you. Is what byproducts and what other products can we take and create from that excess cherry. So we've been doing the research over the last couple of years, and it looks like the best use case and what we've already kind of done to build some products is to turn all of that excess waste and the sugars primarily that's stored in that excess waste into ethanol. Ethanol is the base product for vodkas, gins, all the off-the-shelf liquor that you're going to purchase at the store. So we're building right now a 12,000 liter per day distillation facility to turn that all into ethanol, which we can then convert into on a daily basis about 25,000 standard bottles of vodkas or gins, which we think have like a unique market position here in Colombia. There's no national vodka, gin, everything's imported. It's kind of the absolutes and other vodkas that you'd know, and they sell for a really high price point. So, when we're talking about taking that byproduct and turning it into ethanol and then vodka or gins, we're basically doing it at the cost of the bottle because it's already garbage to us beyond the cost of investment for the distillery. So when you put those three pieces together, the world-class farming, high volumes of roasted coffee at reasonable price points, primarily into the US, and then the alcohol distribution line of the business and other byproducts that we'll create primarily focused on the Colombian market. I think we have a nice kind of business to use everything that comes off of our trees. Our kind of, call it mission statement, or it would be, we want to maximize the value of every coffee cherry, and that means using everything that we get and turning it into revenue sources.
And you're creating more jobs in Colombia.
Yeah,
where it's badly needed right
I mean, it is, especially in these rural regions of the country. The cities do well, they're highly populated, but you go to some of these towns, people have been down here or gone to coffee farms or visited Colombia and traveled around some. It's not the developed world, right? So a lot of people lack opportunities. So it's a nice way to industrialize some of these regions and keep people in coffee. If you don't do that and you depend on this generational hand down of farms and people to continue to run small businesses, eventually you won't grow coffee in Colombia. People are going to leave the industry. There's not enough money there if you only have 3 acres. So there's a feel good nature to the story, absolutely, as well, for sure.
Absolutely. Is it now, as far as getting employees, is it easy to get people, or is it, hard to go out and find qualified people to really, especially during the vodka, that's going to be a whole different ball game. but is it easy to hire these people?
There's a lot of talent here, especially at the executive levels. Actually, where we have the hardest time, and I think it's leading to the mechanization point that you mentioned before, is the recollection. Super hard work, climbing up mountains. It's very challenging labor, and we need a lot of folks. So on average for the harvest, we use about 1,300 folks to collect the coffee. So that's actually more of a heavy lift than finding talent. I mean, Colombia is an agricultural
Yeah.
country. There's a lot of folks that have grown up in, like, for example, our president is from the flower industry. 70% of all the fresh cut flowers in the US come from Colombia. If you're talking about bananas, palm oil, whole host of different industries, people have been farming here for a long time. So you could find those high level folks. It's actually more at the lower levels that it's a little more challenging, given the volumes too. It's a
Yeah.
lot of people.
I would think, especially when you're going to take on roasting and vodka. I mean, when are you guys going to tackle the roasting side of it?
That's like right now. So
Okay.
so we set up a partnership with Treehouse Foods. Treehouse Foods is a New York Stock Exchange traded company, big food manufacturer in the US. They just purchased $100 million facility in Dallas to roast coffee, and they have extra capacity. And we've been talking with them a long time about basically filling up a lot of that capacity with our coffee. We just hired the former president of sales for Intelligentsia Coffee out of Chicago. He was running $100 million book of business for Intelligentsia, and is now our chief revenue officer at Green Coffee Company. So we're putting all the pieces in place. We got some exciting things coming on the brand side, already building a lot of sales relationships. I think this is the year that things really take off. The last couple of years, really the last 5 years, have been all about putting the pieces. We need the farms. We needed to build the processing facilities. We needed to hire the team. We needed to figure out the logistics. We needed to understand our production. All of that goes into actually being able to dependably deliver a lot of roasted coffee at scale, especially when we're talking about 10, 20, 30 million pounds. So right now we're at that point where it's really ready to take off. That's my perspective, and I think where the team is at as well.
That's exciting. This is why I love talking to
Yes.
entrepreneurs. I get all like, this is exciting stuff. I love it.
Yeah,
Now,
it's awesome. It's
warehouses.
awesome.
Do you
Yeah.
guys buy warehouses? Or do you lease warehouses down there?
We don't buy houses. We just rent space, and
Warehouses? Yeah.
everything is. Yeah, I mean, everything's pretty much in transit. We're not sitting on a lot of inventory.
Yeah.
Coffee is, other than oil, the second most liquid commodity on earth. So as soon as we have it, we're basically looking to move it. So we're not doing a lot with inventory storage or warehousing.
Okay. Well, what about transportation? Do you just have trains coming through? You get to ship it out?
Most of it's done by truck. You take it to the port, either in,
Take it to the port.
in Cartagena or Buenaventura, which is down on the Pacific coast. And that coffee's on a boat as soon as possible, go into the international markets.
What's the average time frame from time you picked it till the time it hits the international market?
20 days?
Okay. That's not too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
You guys are moving fast. Well, this is
We're
incredible.
moving
So
fast.
what do you, I mean, you're all this is under one company, Legacy Group
Yeah.
company. What's the end game with this company? Are you guys you're raising money right now?
Yeah, everything is, so the company is a green coffee company. We're based, the company's headquartered in the US in Delaware. We really set it up um, to be in a position, I guess, either to be bought, which we don't really want to do, but it make it easy in case, there's offers that come along. But really our target is take the company public in the US in 2026. That's kind of the discussion we've always had with our investors, to give us 8, 9 years to build the business. And also it aligns with kind of the best timing for when our trees are expected to be kind of max production and everything. So the idea is to get the company public in the US for, I guess, two reasons. One is the liquidity option for investors, give them the option to buy, sell, hold, stay in the business. We have about 500 high net worth accredited investors, a lot of them who've been with us since the beginning. We've brought in about $75 million so far, and everybody's excited about the potential of the business. But people want to have that option of buy, sell, hold. But what I'm really excited about in terms of the IPO is we want to take what we've built in just a few areas of the country and really, I'd say, build the best coffee company that's ever existed, not only in Colombia, but I think globally on a vertically integrated basis. And the best thing about going public, even though it comes with some headaches, is you get a bunch of capital, which you really need here to grow the business. So an IPO where we bring in a couple $100 million, we could really run away with the business. So I think a lot of the value creation will actually come after the IPO. So it's really we want to build this thing for a long time. And excited about the business, great team in place, and it's just it's super fun. So we're raising a bit of capital right now. As you mentioned, we started back in December with a $15 million equity raise, have about 6 million left. So for accredited investors who are interested, definitely contact us, and we're looking to fill out the raise pretty quickly here, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'll put all your contact information down below. So if you do
Great.
go public, I mean, you're just going to continue buying land, do more mechanizing, hire more people. It sounds like
Yeah, I think the 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 goal with over the next few years is to prove each channel of the business model, prove we're the best farmers, prove we could sell the most roasted coffee, prove we could sell ethanol and other byproducts, which nobody else is doing. And then it becomes, let's build more distilleries, let's buy more land, let's build more processing facilities, let's buy more coffee cherries, for more coffee from other farmers around the country, set up these buying points. We're talking about what we can do kind of on a mobile buying point. So we're picking up coffee during the various harvest periods. It's not a continuous harvest of coffee around the year. So it's just, how do we become a monster? How do we do something really cool? How do we build something that nobody else could ever catch up to? There's a big future ahead of us. Pretty exciting.
Well, I think in coffee, because there's so many fingers in the pie right now that you guys are removing, because the farmer would sell it to the wholesaler and on up the list. And I don't know how many people went through by the time it actually made it to the store. And you guys are eliminating a bunch of those steps, the way it sounds.
Yeah, there's way too many middlemen. There's way too much power at the end of the value chain and way too little at the farming level. I mean, what really can somebody who owns 3 acres do in terms of negotiating, what have you? I mean, everybody just kind of gets pushed around, and we're trying to change that dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of those people that land is handed out, they don't want to be growing beans. They want to go, it's like the third and fourth generation. You're like, no, this is not what I want to do. So if they can take some of the cash and go do something they want to have a passion for, then that'll be huge.
For sure.
Now, is Starbucks buying? Do they own farms as well? I don't even know if they do or not.
They do not own farms for their own production. They have a farm in Costa Rica that we actually went and visited, where they do some test planting. So they'll try some different varietals, like what would be climate change resistant or whatever. But they do direct buying, where they're buying from small farmers, but then they buy from a lot of middlemen. They don't have. There's no other coffee company that I know of globally that has this full vertical integration farm to cup story like we're building. Everybody else has other folks in their value chain.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I've come from a farming community, so I love what you guys are doing. You're creating opportunity down in this country and able to help a lot of these folks out. And the amount of jobs you're creating, it's only going up, the way it sounds, in several different avenues.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, now we have about 400 full-time folks. I mentioned the 1,000+ folks that come in for the harvest cycle. And yeah, I mean, it's jobs, but also the indirect benefits too of changing some of these communities. You know, you go to these
Yeah.
farming towns, sometimes the schools aren't very developed, sometimes the hospitals aren't very developed, the roads aren't very good. Industrializing and bringing some real business to some of these places is definitely starting to show. You know, anecdotally, you see kids now with the school uniforms walking around, some new parks opening up, real estate prices going in, towns that are used to, you know, kind of a menu of rice, beans.
Yeah.
You know, now we're seeing like Peruvian restaurants. So it's kind of a funny transition, but it's fun to be part of that impact story as well. And that really all adds value to the business as a whole. You know, we got to do things the right way.
And the quality of life for the people in the community. So that's huge. Well, Adam,
Huge.
thank you very much. I want to make sure that people can reach out to you. How do they contact you?
Yeah, I think for folks interested in investing in this funding round, as I mentioned, we have about 6 million left. We're trying to get about a 5x return on investment through that 2026 IPO. Best way is to reach out to our investor relations department. So it's investor.relations@legacy-group.co. So just like Joe Killinger.co, it's at
Yep.
.co versus .com. And
Yep.
yeah, just it's open to accredited investors, 100K minimums. Look forward to having as many folks join us for a fun story as possible. Absolutely.
Yeah. I have to do a little disclaimer, Adam, that I'm not getting
Yeah.
paid for this video. I'm just
No, that's right.
I love the idea of what you guys are doing. You know, if you want to be an investor, make sure you do your due diligence, make
Yes.
sure it's right for you. But I do love what they're doing down there. Adam, I'm also going to put
Thanks so much.
a link in at the bottom of the video so people can check it out and reach out to you directly. And so,
Great.
well, Adam,
Perfect.
thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for the opportunity, Joe. Appreciate it.
You betcha. And for those of you
Take care.
watching, if you could, please give us a like. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe.